UAE's #1 talk radio station.
This is the Business Breakfast
On Dubai Eye 103.8.
Well, we're talking car sales this morning. Or maybe not. On the buying side of the equation, Tom, you're looking at whether Ramadan is still the season to get a bargain. Who are you speaking to?
Yeah, Expat Motors will be joining us a little later on, around about 8:20 this morning. MD Sonny Baines is going to be in the hot seat talking to us about car sales during Ramadan.
But I shall be speaking to one car subscription service, which says that it's seeing an uptick in people choosing to rent rather than own. Very pleased to be speaking now to Claudio Esposito, who is the co-founder and CEO of Carasti. Claudio, good morning. Thanks for joining us.
Good morning.
Before we get into the numbers, for those not familiar with Carasti, you've been running for 4 years now. How does your subscription service work?
So, the myth really about car subscription is just car rental, but actually, it's not. Ultimately, what we do is we allow our customers to get access to brand new vehicles from dealerships, and they can access that on a much shorter term. So 12 months, 0 kilometer, brand new cars, booked within 4 minutes on an app, simply with your Emirates ID, driver's license, credit card or debit card to pay, and we deliver that car straight to your doorstep.
And what kind of uptick have you seen in people deciding to rent rather than own?
Well, look, over the last 3.5 years, we've actually been going now, and we've got about 11,000 subscribers on the road.
And what's your theory? Because you told me that you've got about 20% more at the beginning of this year compared to the year before.
So yeah, that's specifically on the EV segment. So we're seeing a huge uptick of customers choosing EV. I think obviously the rise of petrol prices is definitely incentivizing people to go in that direction. But that's an interesting trend because, and also a worrying trend for the auto world, because I think all predictions are being beaten around EV adoption. And over the next few years, we're going to see the majority of car sales actually be EV, which is going to adversely affect the price points of petrol-powered cars, so ICE engines. And so the reason people are now starting to think, what do I do? Do I go and buy a vehicle today, or do I actually subscribe to that vehicle when I don't have a residual value risk? Because just to give you an example, imagine you go and buy, an Audi A3, brand new. That car will cost you around 100,000 today. You're putting a 20% down payment, so around 20,000 on that car. And ultimately, when you look at the costs of that vehicle in the first year, it's costing you about 4,000 a month between the loan, between your down payments, between the depreciation. And on Carasti, you can get that car for 2,999, including VAT, right? So a customer actually is much better off by subscribing to that vehicle. And in 4 years' time, imagine if you owned that car. In 4 years' time, you're going to be in a market where no one's wanting to buy a petrol vehicle. In 2027, the majority of new car sales are going to be EV. Everyone is going to want to be in an EV. So we're in a moment essentially where there's a big turning point, I would say, in how people are what powertrain people are going to choose, and that is a big risk on depreciation.
What about the depreciation of the EVs themselves? For the price that you're paying, and people will sit down and do the maths and figure out, yes, but I'd still own an asset no matter how much it was depreciating at the end of that 4 years. What's happening to EV depreciation to make that not the better option?
So on the EV side, the problem is that technology is evolving so fast. So a car that you may have bought last year with a 300 kilometer range, which is quite normal. Now this year you're seeing 500 kilometer ranges. Next year, you're going to see 1,000 kilometer ranges. And obviously the technology that goes into those vehicles keeps growing, keeps adapting. And so an EV that you buy, today essentially is obsolete within 18 to 24 months. So reselling those cars will become difficult.
But we're not all rational beasts when it comes to making these decisions. We're not all sitting down doing the maths around depreciation. Why else might be people looking to rent at the moment any cars, not just EVs rather than own?
Well, look, I think there's the sense of flexibility and what you can do with your money, right? So, actually, a lot of people are seeing, with interest rates going up, with the price of raw materials going up for everything, right? Car prices are indeed going up. People, unfortunately, aren't earning that much more or anything more at the moment, and therefore are thinking to themselves, can I actually afford to buy a vehicle, and does it make sense to actually put my money into a depreciating asset? And expats, especially here in this region, are now looking at the rental market. As we know, houses are going up tremendously, and renting doesn't really make sense anymore. So a lot of people are thinking, how do I get a mortgage? And at that point, they're thinking, well, do I want to lock up my credit allowance in a depreciating asset such as a car, or do I want to give myself a little bit more room to buy that slightly bigger house and invest in an appreciating asset? So that's a massive trend. We're seeing people, redistribute the way they want to spend their money and allocate their funds.
So you're suggesting that with the boom in home ownership, people are looking to keep their debt to salary ratio a bit healthier on paper?
Correct.
So who's actually renting then? Give us an idea of the demographic.
So, look, on average, you're looking at a big expat community here, obviously, in the UAE. And generally, it's people who want to, they're spending around an average of 3,500 dirhams a month with Carasti. So it's actually mid-range to premium vehicles, which are the most sold within our ecosystem. So when you look at car rental, going back to your original point, car rental, generally you associate that with kind of your economy vehicles, gets you from A to B. It's a great entry point when you first arrive here. But at some point, you want to upgrade. And when you want to upgrade and you want to drive a slightly nicer car, the car rental companies don't generally offer that to you. And if they do, it's an extortionate price. Therefore, you go and buy. And this is where Carasti sits right in the middle. So we target those consumers that ultimately want to get into a nicer car, but don't necessarily want to buy it.
Do you have a demographic breakdown in terms of nationality?
Yes, and actually you'll see that the majority, based on where we are, the majority are Asian, actually. So you're looking just over 50% Asian and 25% European, and then a mix of GCC Levant is the rest.
And do you have any insight into whether or not you're talking about existing residents, or whether you're talking about new residents who might be thinking, okay, well, we'll see how Dubai works out for me. Renting or subscribing is the safer option than buying?
Well, look, one of the demographics that we didn't mention in that 25% actually is the Russian demographic. And as you can imagine, and everyone's noticed it, there is a massive influx. And so new residents, whether it's Russians, whether it's people from the UK, it doesn't matter. New people arriving in the country are looking for solutions, and quick solutions that don't necessarily need the same bank approvals, right? Because you don't have a credit rating in the UAE yet. Versus with us, you come straight in, you can get that car that you really want. As long as you're able to pay, you have a credit card or debit card, you are able to get into that vehicle. So it's a very good solution for people who just arrive into the country as well.
Claudio Esposito is the co-founder and CEO of Carasti, speaking to us this morning as we look at whether or not Ramadan sales have spiked during the traditional period for a bit of a bargain, whether some of us are looking to rent instead. Thank you.
Thank you.